If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. Mide's been extremely worried about Round Rocks, which has her pacing back and forth a lot. During one of her random walks, she saw something out of the corner of her eye that looks a lot like the cat Shanoa that's always been hanging around Quick Thinks. If the cat's there, then it's likely that the Illuminati aren't too far behind, so naturally the two of you go to track it down. The two of you find the cat, and sure enough an Illuminati spy isn't far off. Sid and Y'shtola take him out, but not before he starts bragging about how once they activate the final core of Alexander, they'll be able to travel through time and be unstoppable. The whole thing sounds crazy to Sid, but the goblins seem positive that Quick Thinks was a prophet from the future sent to fix history. What makes this situation even worse is he claims that the battle for the future's already been won, at least according to the Enigma Codex. It's depressing to think about it, but it would explain why Quick Thinks seems to already know what you were going to do. And if it is true, it will make your entire fight with the Illuminati pointless. Backrix thinks all of this talk is nonsense, and he's more interested in hearing your plans on dealing with the current situation. Y'shtola and Sid had been getting things set up for their final assault, with the help of Matoya of course, when the cat Mide had been following had came into the cave and acted like it wanted them to follow it. They had, and it had led them right to the Illuminati spy. It was a happy coincidence, but since the tiny cat's been with Quick Thinks constantly, Sid refuses to believe that it turned on its master at random. Either it switched sides, or Quick Thinks is setting you all up. If the thing could talk, Sid would want to question it, and since it can't really hurt to try, he tells the cat to meow twice for yes and once for no. Then he asks if it's Quick Thinks' cat. It actually answers yes, so Mide asks if it wants to go back home, and it answers no. That makes Sid start to think that it really can understand them. However, that doesn't mean that she's not still working for Quick Thinks. While that may be true, Backrix remembers Round Rock saying that she had saw a black cat watching her 3 years ago when she had first found the piece of the Enigma Codex. That had seemed like useless information back then, but now Backrix is starting to wonder if Shanoa is the exact same cat. But if it had been, then it would be full grown by now, unless it somehow jumped through time. It all sounds ridiculous, even to Y'shtola who suggested it, but it can't be ruled out, and if that's the case, it could mean that Quick Thinks has been manipulating things as far back as Mide's first summoning of Alexander, which means you're all likely screwed. Talking about the problem's not really doing anything to fix it, so Sid thinks that your best option is to just head back into Alexander and see what you can find. And Wedge being Wedge, he's made something that should help you get through the barrier and back into the Primal. He's running the last tests on the device now, so the Warrior of Light and the others head off to meet him. Wedge knows that he went a little overboard with the last invention, but he's positive that his next one will work exactly how it's supposed to. The plan is simple. You'll be attacking the Primal from two angles again. Y'shtola's working on cutting off Alexander's ether supply, while the Warrior of Light's going to go and rescue Round Rocks. Without her, the Illuminati won't be able to control time, so that'll even the playing field, hopefully. You'll be heading in through Alexander's head with the help of Wedge's new device, something that he's named Barrier Be Gone, which is supposed to, you guessed it, remove Mide's barrier. The problem is, once the barrier's gone, Alexander will be free to move, so you'll need to do what you're doing fast, or things are going to go wrong very quickly. Sid's gonna fly you as close as he can to the top of the Primal, then you're gonna go in and clear the way for the rest of them. Once you've done that, you need to get back to the ship so Wedge can turn the barrier back on. All of that needs to be done before Alexander can move, so no pressure. This is hardly the most dangerous thing that the Warrior of Light's done, so he and his adventurer buddies head in. Once the barrier drops, they all rush in, fighting against swarms of goblins as they make their way to the top of the Primal and inside, where even more of the Illuminati's toys try to bar their way. Toys that the Warrior of Light takes great pride in destroying. With the path into the top of the primal clear, Sid and the others reactivate the barrier, leaving the top of Alexander's head outside, which gives you a way back in to make your next attack once you're ready. Y'shtola's glad to see that at least one of your missions was accomplished. Cutting off Alexander's ether supply didn't work at all, and she thinks Mide might be able to help her understand why since she summoned the thing. All primals constantly draw ether from the surrounding land, both to make themselves stronger and to keep their physical forms. She and Matoya had figured that they could create a barrier between the land's ether and Alexander using some device called Arcanima that she had Sid put around the area. The devices are working fine, but for some reason Alexander isn't being hindered by them at all. Mide may know why, but she can't fully see how it'll matter all that much. When she was younger, a man that she didn't know came up to her and told her that anything she wanted could be hers if she listened to him. A grown person telling a random kid that should be a big old red flag, but not all kids are given the stranger danger talk. They definitely should be, especially with all the crazies running around now. If Mide's parents had told her not to talk to strangers, we probably could have avoided dealing with the cult and their time-traveling primal, but they didn't, so here we are. She didn't understand what the man was talking about, but he had told her to reunite the shards of the Enigma Codex and perform the sacred rite before the ruins that stand against the river's flow. Then her hopes and dreams would all become a reality. After that, he gave her a horn to use as a catalyst for the summoning and told her that it was a gift from Travanchet. Then he left. Y'shtola's had some run-ins with the man before, and as you may have guessed, he's an Ascian. The horn was supposedly a relic with the power to manipulate ether in the air. The Scions had hunted it for a while since it could be deadly in the wrong hands, and if it's being used by Alexander's third core to draw ether, then there's no way to stop it from drawing ether from anywhere on the star. That means you'll just have to break the core the old-fashioned way, but that won't stop the Illuminati from simply rewinding time to undo everything you've done. All in all, nothing's changed. Your only course of action is to save Round Rocks. The Circle of Knowing had given Y'shtola the mission of recovering the horn, and not only did she fail, it was her failure that caused it to fall into Travanchet's hands. She feels that this incident is as much her fault as anyone else's, so she's more than willing to help in any way that she can. Which means it's time to rescue Round Rocks, or at least to try. From above, Quick Thinks is watching you all like he still knows what you're planning, and oddly enough, Backrix notices that his tiny black cat is still with him, which means that the one that's standing next to you all couldn't be his. So he decides to rename it Schrodinger. That's a very on-the-nose thing to name the cat, and if you don't know why, it's a little bit of real-world lore that I guess I will go into. Schrodinger's cat in simple terms is a thought experiment done by Erwin Schrödinger, where you hypothetically put a cat in a box with radioactive material that may or may not be released after a certain amount of time. After a while, as long as the box isn't open, the cat exists in two states at the same time. It's both alive and dead. It'll stay like that until someone opens the box to definitively prove that the cat is in one state or the other. Now you can figure out on your own what that means in regards to this story. Regardless of how weird the cat situation is, Biggs and the others did get a good look around the inside of Alexander, which let them figure out where Round Rocks is being kept. She's in the central core, and from what Biggs could see, all you'll need to do is ride one of those floating platforms there. Of course they'll be guarded, so the Warrior of Light will head back in through Alexander's head, while the others travel through Midas to make sure the Illuminati don't have any traps waiting to ambush you. Once you've gotten your hands on one of the platforms, Biggs and Wedge will do what they do best and cause a distraction. With all the talking done, you all get to work. As expected, there's no small amount of goblins working hard to stop you from interfering with their plans, and their tech and fighting skill makes things a little bit difficult. But after taking down the mercenary named Lame Brick Strikebox, the Warrior of Light has a clear path to Round Rocks. Y'shtola, Sid, and Mide had to deal with a few goblins of their own, but it wasn't too much trouble, and you all find Round Rocks safe and sound sitting in a chair right next to the Enigma Codex, directly above the third core of Alexander. The amount of ether Y'shtola can see pumping through the core is outright terrifying, and all that power has been being used by Round Rocks, which has made the little goblin a little unstable, but it has given her the ability to alter time. Hearing that it really is true, Mide wonders out loud if she genuinely could fix her mistakes from 3 years ago. So Round Rocks, trying to be a good friend, decides to help and activates Alexander, spinning time backwards despite everyone telling her not to. Biggs, Wedge, and Backrix get a front row seat for the trip since they're on top of the Primal, and they're pretty shocked when Sid tells them that they're being sent back in time. They appear along with Alexander right at the moment when Mayday and her friends were summoning the Primal. They're excited because they think that what they're doing worked, but it's short-lived because Alexander activates and the Illuminati shoots Mayday's friends. Alexander starts trying to suck Mayday inside, but Dayan pushes her out of the way, getting sucked into the Primal in her place. Backrix finds the whole thing fascinating, and he's writing it all in his book until Schrodinger knocks it out of his hands, and both the cat and the book fall off of the Primal right as Mayday of the past activated her barrier. Whatever Round Rocks did ends, and you're all snapped back to your own time, and QuickThink shows up to brag about how once again you've done exactly what was written. Ironically enough, it seems like Sid and the others still haven't figured things out, so QuickThink decides to break it down for them. Time is a circle, or a wheel, and everything you've done or will do has already happened, and you're just completing the loop. In other words, when Mayday and her friends summoned Alexander 3 years ago, what they had actually seen were you all traveling back through time. Hearing that makes Mayday realize that what had happened to her and her friends was destined to happen, and there was never anything she could have done to fix it. More goblins show up, so Y'shtola decides that it's time to retreat since you do have Round Rocks, but knowing that everything she's done is pointless, Mayday decides to stay behind. There's nothing you can do about it right now, so you all head out before you get captured, or killed. Biggs and the others are happy to see Round Rocks, but now that Mayday's with the Illuminati, Round Rocks wants to go back for her. Sid had never planned on leaving the woman there, but first you all need to make a plan, so they call Jesse to pick them up. The day brought a lot of painful revelations, especially since the Illuminati had planned out everything from the incident 3 years ago to now, and they had used all of you to do it. But worst of all, the one thing that had kept Mayday going was a hope of seeing Dayan again, and now she knows that'll never happen because there's definitely nothing left of the man. This whole mission has been going poorly, but it's not a complete loss. You saved Round Rocks, and without her the Illuminati can't turn time backwards, which means it's time to destroy Alexander's final core, and this time it should be permanent. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and donate to the channel so I can keep bringing you guys new content. Until next time guys, later.